We all learn about five senses in school, but there's a sixth sense that we rarely talk about: interoception. Interoception is your ability to sense what's happening inside your body. So, hunger, thirst, needing the toilet, feeling too hot or too cold, your heart racing, that full sensation in your bladder, emotional states that create physical sensations. Most people process all these kinds of signals automatically without even thinking about it. But for many neurodivergent children and adults like me, these internal signals are like trying to hear a whisper in a noisy room. The signals exist, but they're not getting through clearly, or they're getting through all kind of scrambled together. In my 30s, I was learning about interoception and I suddenly realized, this is me too. I don't feel hunger or thirst the way that other people describe it. I've had to teach myself to recognize when my body needs food or fluids, building it into routine rather than waiting for signals that just don't come through clearly. Research by Dr. 𝗞𝗲𝘆 reveals that many neurodivergent children aren't ignoring their body signals. They genuinely struggle to perceive them in the first place. So a child that suddenly seems to need the toilet urgently with no warning, they're not leaving it too late on purpose. They just genuinely didn't receive the early signals that most people get when their bladder starts to fill. So, how do we support with this? Instead of saying things like, why didn't you ask for the toilet? Try, let's notice together what your body feels like when you need the loo. So, we try to start to teach it. We're going to make it a curious observation, not a failure. You're teaching them to recognize signals that aren't coming through very clearly for them. And like I said before, it's not just children. So, sometimes I'm hyper aware of needing the toilet when I barely need to go at all. Other times, I don't notice until it's very urgent. The signals just aren't consistent. For children and adults experiencing this, the 5-minute earlier prompt works really brilliantly. So prompt before you think that they'll need it, not when they're desperate. You're giving them practice reading earlier signals when the stakes are lower, less urgent. If a student goes from seemingly fine to total meltdown in seconds, they're not being dramatic. What's actually happening is often that they've been uncomfortable, hungry, overwhelmed for ages, but the signals just haven't got through enough to register until they hit crisis level. Dr. 𝗲𝗆's research showed us this repeatedly. The internal cues just don't build gradually in the way that they do for most people. This is where regular body check-in moments can make a real difference. So before transitions, before breaks, at natural pauses, just 30 seconds with the child of let's notice what our bodies are telling us right now can start to build awareness over time. You're kind of creating opportunities to notice signals before they reach crisis point. As supposedly a fully fledged adult without the likes of yourself to help me, I manage my own interoceptive differences through routine. So making sure I drink regularly, eat at set times, and go to the toilet whenever I get the opportunity, rather than waiting for signals that might just not come. Here's something that can seem really puzzling: inconsistent responses to pain and discomfort. So you might have a child in mind who you've noticed will manage a significant injury really remarkably well, then makes a massive fuss about a tiny scratch or a paper cut. We're often going to misread this as being attention-seeking or dramatic. But what Dr. 𝗲𝗆𝗆's research helped to explain is that the interoceptive signals are simply inconsistent. That's why we see inconsistency. Sometimes those internal danger signals don't get through clearly at all, so a genuinely serious injury just doesn't register. Other times, a tiny sensation gets amplified and feels genuinely huge. So this isn't about their pain threshold being higher or lower. It's about the signal reception being unpredictable. So like when I'm really focused on something, so I might be speaking on stage, for example, I don't notice temperature at all. Sometimes the room is freezing or boiling. I've had it before when I've come off stage and everyone's like fanning themselves and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Or they've all wrapped up in their winter coats. And again, I just haven't noticed. But other times I'll like really, really feel the cold to the point where I can't focus. It's not that I'm choosing what to notice. It's just that the signals come through differently depending on what else is going on. So when you see that inconsistency with pain or discomfort, name what you're noticing without judgment. So like, I can see you're shivering. That might be your body saying it's cold. Or I notice that you're rubbing your tummy. Sometimes that means that we're hungry or uncomfortable. When you do this, when you notice out loud, you're going to build the child's vocabulary for internal sensations while validating that what they're experiencing is real. When you ask, how are you feeling? And they say, I don't know, they're not being difficult. They literally can't identify what their body is telling them in that moment. So instead, you can use more body-focused language. So you might say something like, is your tummy feeling empty or full right now? Or are your shoulders feeling tight or relaxed? Or is your heart beating fast or slowly? A quick traffic light body check can work quite well here too. So before activities, you might say something like, is your body feeling red for urgent needs, amber, something's not quite right, or green, all good to go. You're teaching a child to scan and assess without needing precise language for every sensation. This isn't about children being unaware or disconnected. It's about their sensory processing making internal signals harder to perceive and really inconsistent. It's not that they're harder to manage once they notice them, it's just that they're harder to notice in the first place and unpredictable as to how strongly they'll register. So the key thing here, the one thing to take away from this video, if nothing else, is we just need to stop expecting some of our children to just know their body signals and start explicitly teaching these hidden senses. We are going to remove so much unnecessary shame and frustration that way. Children who struggle with this, they're not being difficult, they're just actually trying to do something that's genuinely challenging for them. Those signals just not getting through. They're trying to decode things that most people receive loud and clear without even thinking about it. But the really cool thing about this is that interoception can be developed. We can work on it. Every single time that you help a child notice and name what their body is telling them, you're building that awareness. And this can change, but it does need explicitly teaching. Good luck.